Bedtime Stories for Kids. The Goose Girl. Once upon a time, in a sunlit kingdom by the sea, there lived a gentle and thoughtful princess named Annalise. She was known for her soft voice, her kindness to animals, and her long golden hair that shimmered like morning wheat. She had been promised in marriage to a prince from a distant land, a political alliance to ensure peace. Though the marriage was arranged, Annalise hoped her heart would catch up to duty in time. "You are the light of this kingdom," her mother, the queen, whispered, kissing her forehead. "Be brave, and never forget who you are." Annalise nodded. "I will make you proud." The next day, she set off on horseback with her loyal lady-in-waiting Clarice, and a small escort. Hidden in the folds of her dress was a silver charm her mother had given her, enchanted with a single drop of protective magic. "Speak to it only in true need," the queen had said. "It will hear you." They rode for days, through whispering forests and winding valleys. At night, Annalise sang to the stars, and her horse Falada, a majestic white steed, would lower his head to listen. But Clarice changed. She grew distant, harsh, no longer called Annalise princess, but girl. On the 7th morning, Clarice approached the campfire. "From now on," she said coldly, "you will say nothing unless I command it." "What are you talking about?" Annalise asked, startled. "I'm tired of serving someone with silken hands. You will give me your name, your jewels, and your horse." "You can't." Clarice stepped closer, her voice low and threatening. "If you speak a word of this, I will tell them you are a maid pretending to be royalty. Who do you think they'll believe?" Annalise looked to her guards, but they were already under Clarice's spell, fooled or bribed. Her heart trembled. "Falada," she whispered that night, stroking the horse's mane. "Don't forget me." "I won't," the horse said softly. "I know your true name." But that very night, Clarice ordered Falada to be taken and killed. The princess tried to stop it, but she was too late. Her voice, once soft, now felt stolen. And so the real princess arrived at the foreign kingdom in silence, dressed as a maid. Clarice walked ahead, announced herself as Princess Annalise, and no one doubted her. The true Annalise was sent to work as a goose girl, her crown buried beneath ash and straw. But in her heart, she still held her mother's charm. And one day, she whispered to it, "If anyone remembers who I am, let it be Falada." Each morning, Annalise rose with the sun and led the geese to the fields outside the castle. Her hands, once soft and clean, grew rough with work. Her dresses were patched, her golden hair hidden beneath a gray scarf. But her eyes still watched the sky with wonder. Her only companion was a cheerful, curious boy named Conrad, a gooseherd who loved riddles and chatter. "You're too quiet," he'd tease, "too graceful for a girl who chases geese." "Perhaps I was something else once," she'd whisper with a sad smile. Yet every day, before she passed through the castle gate, she paused beneath a stone arch where a strange sight had appeared. The mounted head of Falada, her beloved horse. Clarice, fearing discovery, had Falada's head placed there as a trophy, but she did not know the horse had been touched by magic. Each morning, Annalise would whisper, "Oh Falada, dear Falada, hanging there. If only someone knew how much I care." And the horse's head, with eyes like mirrors, would reply, "If your soul stays true and pure of heart, then truth and crown shall not stay apart." Unbeknownst to her, the king of the land, father to the prince she was meant to marry, had begun to notice her. He watched from the tower as she knelt beside the arch each morning. He asked servants who she was, and none had a clear answer. "The goose girl," they said. "She speaks little, but works hard." Intrigued, the king summoned Conrad in secret. "This girl who watches geese, what do you know of her?" Conrad scratched his head. "She's quiet, odd, talks to herself, sometimes to that old horse's head. But she's kind." "What else?" "There's one strange thing. Whenever I try to grab a strand of her hair, it shines like gold. The wind blows suddenly and lifts it away." "The wind?" the king asked every time. The king frowned. "Watch her tomorrow, then report back." I want to know what secrets the goose girl keeps. The next day, Conrad crept behind her as she approached Falada's arch. The king, hidden in shadow, watched too. He saw Annalise knelt and whispered her rhyme. And Falada answered. The king's heart skipped. That horse spoke. Later that evening, he called for Annalise alone. Child, he said gently, do not fear. But I must ask, who are you really? Tears welled in her eyes. She reached into her skirt and drew out the charm from her mother. My name is Annalise, she whispered, and I am your son's bride, though no one believes me. The king listened to every word. About Clarice, the betrayal, the charm, and the voice she had kept locked away. When she was done, he bowed low before her. Forgive us for not seeing you, but I promise, the truth will rise. The next day, the king invited all the nobles of the court and the false princess Clarice to a grand feast. Annalise was not at the table. She watched from behind a silk curtain, dressed once again in royal colors, her hair washed, her head held high. Clarice swept into the room, glittering in jewels that weren't hers, smiling as if nothing in the world could touch her. The king raised his cup. We celebrate the peace between kingdoms, he declared, and welcome our future queen. Clarice stood and curtsied deeply. I am honored, your majesty. The king gave a slight smile. Before we proceed, may I tell a riddle? A tale, if you will. Clarice blinked. Of course. Imagine a traveler, the king began, his voice calm, who sets off on a long journey to meet her future husband. Along the way, her most trusted companion betrays her, forces her into silence, steals her name and title. What punishment would such a crime deserve? The hall grew silent. Clarice paled. That sounds like a story, she said, her voice trembling. Indeed, the king said. So I ask again, what punishment fits such a betrayal? Clarice licked her lips. She should be sent far away, forgotten. Or perhaps, said the king, she should face what she forced upon the real princess. He clapped his hands. Annalise stepped into the room. Gasps rose. Whispers filled the air. The difference was unmistakable. In posture, in presence, in truth. This is the true Princess Annalise, said the king. The one with the courage to suffer in silence, and the heart to forgive. Clarice fell to her knees. Please, I was only trying to survive. Annalise stepped forward. Her voice was soft but firm. You had a choice, and you chose cruelty. But I choose mercy. The king nodded. Clarice was stripped of her stolen titles and sent away. Not to a dungeon, but to serve in the same stables where Annalise had once watched geese. She would learn what it meant to labor, and to reflect. Days later, Prince Leopold, kind and clever, with eyes that mirrored his father's, returned from the southern border. He was told everything. And when he met Annalise for the first time, she was standing in the garden, barefoot in the grass, speaking softly to a white dove. You're not what I expected, he said gently. She turned, surprised, and smiled. Neither are you. They walked beneath the blooming trees, and in time, they fell not just into duty, but into love. And so the girl who once knelt before a horse's head rose to sit beside a prince. She ruled with grace, remembered the geese who kept her company, and always, always, kept Falada's name in her prayers. Because the crown had never been in her voice, or her jewels. It had always been in her heart.